Hello. In this demo, we're going to be showing you how we can use Azure Monitor and Azure Log Analytics combined with Azure Arc to monitor our Azure Stack HCI cluster or clusters around the world. So we'll start by going into Windows Admin Center and connecting to the dashboard that we're used to managing our HCI clusters from. In here, you could see the normal things that I would look for in maintaining a HCI cluster. So looking at the server status, the drives, the volumes, the CPU, memory usage, the storage, and the state of the virtual machines. Everything looks good, but I want to collect this data from many clusters. So first I'm going to start with making sure that I'm registered. Now I know I'm registered in with Azure Stack HCI, but the new registration process automatically enables Azure Arc integration. So that's great news. Once this is done, we just have a simple step of going into the portal and going to Azure Arc, and we can then see our HCI cluster. Once we see our HCI cluster in Azure Arc, we'll be able to onboard capabilities such as log analytics. Here we can connect to a log analytics workspace, and after some time we'll have monitoring automatically turned on for us. Now that monitoring is turned on, we can use Azure Arc to monitor basic settings very similar to what we're seeing in the dashboard, where we can see CPU, memory, volume, drive, virtual machine state, all from here. But what we really want to start looking into is the monitoring tool itself. So we'll do a quick search for monitor in the Azure portal, and we'll scroll down here to the Azure Stack HCI, currently in preview. Once we're in here, we can then select our cluster and start uploading the workbook that we're using. So this would let us look at multiple clusters all at the same time. In our case, we only have one cluster, but we can quickly see the state of the cluster in a graphical way. See the available memory, the VM state, and so forth, and then we know that everything is pretty decent. If we choose to deep dive, well, we have tabs for those different options. So in our case, we want to make sure storage looks good from an overall view, so we can dive in and see our volumes are looking pretty good, although we need to keep an eye on this nested mirror, and that our physical drives in the cluster, our 8 NVMe in this case, are all online and healthy. We can dive into cluster performance and see the CPU and volume latency and other metrics that we would expect to see in both Windows Admin Center and now Azure Monitor, all from one pane of glass. So this information is being collected from multiple clusters into one portal. So we don't need multiple tools to do this work. We can see the state of our virtual machines very easily, and at a holistic view, understand what's going on in our cluster. Now, if we want alerts, we can easily do that in Windows Admin Center as well. Because the cluster is already registered, and we've got log analytics collecting data, all we have to do is go into the Azure Monitor tools for right now, and we can see that our cluster is onboarded and connected to the same log analytics workspace. We can then edit our alert rules and enable these alert rules. These are the basic ones Microsoft has given you. You can create your own, and then you create an action group. This will be an email, an alert message, or whatever you want sent to the appropriate team. You can then visit that in the Azure portal, and you can see those action rules. So here I can manage those alert rules and what is actually enabled, or I can manage the actions themselves. So in this case, I can enable Fabric admins to get different alert techniques, whether that be an email, an SMS, or a push notification in their application that's running on iOS or Android. So that way I can get alerts if something goes wrong on my cluster. So in this case, we can look at our CPU utilization rule and see that it's going to send one email, one message, or one push notification if this alert was to send, and this will include the results about that. As long as the CPU stays below 85% on the 2 nodes for most of the time, then we won't send this message. Otherwise, we're going to send this message.